Hi there! Welcome to episode 26 of the WaveBack Music Podcast. Today's episode is Risk of Rain for PlayStation 4 and PC. Enjoy! Hello again, this is the WaveBack Music Podcast. My name is Kris.
And I'm Vicky.
And we're here to talk to you about some of the most interesting video game music there is. Tonight we're going to be discussing another game of Vicky's choosing. I've never heard of it before, but after listening to the soundtrack, I definitely want to change that. It's an action game with an action-packed score. Tonight we're listening to Risk of Rain. Vicky, why don't you hit us with some history?
Okay. Risk of Rain was developed by two students at the University of Washington, Duncan Drummond and Paul Morse. They released the game under the name Hapu. I think it's Hapu. Hapu Games.
It's Hapu too. I think you nailed it. And you know what? If we're wrong, please correct us on Twitter.
Oh yeah, please.
We have no shame when it comes to mispronouncing people's names.
We sure don't. Chucklefish Games also published Wanderlust Adventures, Interstellaria, and Stardew Valley, just to name a few. The duo completed most of the game in their college budgets, and later went to Kickstarter to gain additional funds. Originally, they set out to get $7,000 for the completion, and ended up with more than $30,000, which is amazing.
It's a lot of dollars.
Yes.
It's way more dollars than I have.
Risk of Rain is sort of a roguelike action platformer. There are tons of weapons and dozens of characters to choose from, so it's the kind of game that can be very difficult to get sick of. Like the trailer says, the longer you play, the harder it gets, so the challenge factor is there too. Onto the music. All of the track titles refer to rain and or water in terms of physics, meteorology, geography, art, and pop culture. The difficulties as well. They are drizzle, rainstorm, and monsoon. Two songs that didn't make the cut for tonight's show have interesting titles worth noting. Double Fucking Rainbow, which is obviously from the viral video about a man who gets too excited about the sighting of a double rainbow all the way across the sky. Sorry, I had to do that. And the other title was 25.3 degrees north and 91.7 degrees east, which is the latitude and longitude of Cherrapunji, a town in India that is known to receive more rainfall than any other place on Earth. Christodoulou came up with all of the song titles.
Thanks, Vicky.
You're welcome.
But who is Christodoulou? Well, he's the composer of Risk of Rain, obviously, and he's written music for a handful of other indie games, such as Wanderlust Adventures and Deadbolt. He's also done a few pieces for some indie films, documentaries, and shorts. I'm not going to go too much into his profile here, because as a special treat, Vicky actually sat down and interviewed the gentleman, and that interview will be posted at the end of this episode, so make sure you stick around for that. I know I will, because I wasn't there. So without further ado, let's get started. Vicky is probably going to take point on a lot of this, because she knows this music far better than I. The first track of the night is a song I'm going to let Vicky talk about, because I don't want to try to pronounce this.
It's French.
It does appear very French, I do not speak French at all.
It's a French poem. I'm going to try and pronounce it. I'm very sorry. Chanson de automne. I think so. I think it's rain and autumn.
Chanson d'automne. Yes, thank you.
Oh, sorry, everyone.
We are so sorry. Something in French is our first track. What can you tell us about this before we jump in?
So this song is played during Hive Cluster and Sky Meadow. It means autumn song in French, and it's a poem by Paul Verlaine.
All right, so here is our track number 1. Enjoy. All right, so that was Chanson d'Automne from Risk of Rain. Wow, that's a hell of a song. Really, really, right off the bat, the stereo effects that he has working on that song really, really hit me. 'Cause I'm listening to this through some pretty fancy headphones right now,
Ooh.
and just the stereo effects going on are very, very, very cool. I love the drum beat, and those odd intentional, I guess they're like sour notes,
Oh, like
but
the skip?
intentionally so, and like kind of that weird offbeat stuff gives it a ton of character.
Mm-hmm. I love the clarinet in that. It fits. You never really think of clarinets in like video game music.
Mm-hmm. It works extraordinarily well. The whole thing has a very kind of melancholy sound to it, like feel to it too, which I find very interesting because I've looked at a couple of videos of this game with very, very little experience. I've listened to these tracks all once before, just listened to them yesterday, and I watched a couple of gameplay videos of this, and visually speaking, it reminds me a lot of Cave Story, and it's interesting that this particular song really reminded me of something that I would associate with Cave Story, because it kind of exudes a similar feeling of melancholy. This would fit right in with a game like that. But it's just a great track.
It's one of like the more soothing of these songs on the soundtrack.
Yes. I believe that the rest of the music on this list is at least slightly more upbeat. At least slightly more upbeat.
Yes.
Sometimes considerably more upbeat. All right, let's move on to track number 2. Track number 2 is a lot easier to pronounce. It's Dew Point. What can you tell us about Dew Point?
Well, I was talking to Kris, and this was actually his favorite song.
Really?
Yeah.
Very cool.
You listen to this in Desolate Forest, and I'm pretty sure that's the only level you do listen to it on, which is really weird because usually there's multiple times that you'd hear each of the songs.
Yeah, I mean, if the game's procedurally generated, you would assume that at a certain point you're going to come back to similar themes, but, well, I guess that just makes this track all the more special. Let's go ahead and listen to it. Here's track number 2, Dew Point. That was Dew Point, again from Risk of Rain. You don't hear a lot of songs in 5/4 time, especially not in video games, but shit, did he pull it off. What a remarkable track. It's such a unique time signature, and I've always found it really difficult to deviate from like your standard 4/4 or 3/4 time. But this song just works. As I was listening to it, I'm counting it out, just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Holy shit! This is in 5/4. This is remarkable. I hope I'm saying that right. If I sound like a complete idiot to anyone who knows more about music than I do, feel free to let us know. But I'm pretty sure I'm saying that right. 5/4 time. Regardless, it's each chunk of the song is 5 beats instead of 4 beats or 3 beats like you would have in a waltz. And it's just, I've always found it very difficult to put music together like that. And when it's pulled off correctly, it sounds so cool. And I love the instrumentation here too. All the instrument choices are phenomenal. It's got a great build, and you know how much I like a good natural build in my music. But this is also a really great showpiece of an overarching theme in this soundtrack, is that it's all these very modern video game music type synthesized sounds with some retro chip sounds mixed in with it, and not as brazen as something like Anamanaguchi. It's very subtle and very natural. It's quite stunning, quite gorgeous.
I love how he just like turned this one into like more of an electronic song than the previous one.
Yeah, because you could figure from this one starting that it could have stayed, kind of melancholy and kind of ambient like the previous track, but it built to this really kind of epic thing. And I hate the way that word has been co-opted, epic. But that is I mean that in the truest of definitions of how I feel about this song. It's conveying a feeling of epicness, and it's remarkable. Very cool track.
Well, the next song is going to be super epic.
Well, it's a freaking hailstorm.
It's actually my favorite song.
Is it now?
All right. Listen to it at work all the time. It gets me super pumped.
That is awesome.
For typing.
All right. Well, then give us all the history on this song after we're done listening to it. This is track number 3, Hailstorm. Enjoy. Boy, that ended a lot more abruptly than I expected.
Yeah. Usually you hear that song when you're fighting bosses, so sometimes you don't hear the end of it. It was only a 2-minute long song.
Yeah, it seems like it has a pretty natural looping point there too, but man, that's an intense track.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Very, very good stuff. Again with the very interesting drums, like none of the drums are just straightforward. It's just
these are like war drums.
Very well put together, yeah. And the title really seems to fit, except I kind of got a more heat vibe from this. I'm picturing something a lot more red than a hailstorm, but then again, there's got to be other colors in the game besides blue. So.
Oh yeah, one of the levels that you hear the song on is called Risk of Rain, and that's the final level of the game, and it's all red, and you're in like the space station. It's very scary.
So when you say the final level of the game, can you actually beat this game?
Oh yeah, I've beaten it plenty of times.
Oh, okay. I was under the impression that it just kept going until you died, and you just tried to go for as long as you could.
No.
Okay.
There is a final boss, and as long as you like get as many items as you possibly can, you can beat him.
I see.
It's a very difficult game to play alone. I have tried many times.
Oh, that's right. This has co-op in it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I couldn't
Co-op is
imagine. Yeah, I couldn't imagine playing the single player and like getting anywhere.
But it's procedurally generated, right? Like the levels are randomly designed, so it's different each time you play it?
All right, so the first couple levels are randomly generated, and then it goes on until you get to the last level, which is like you'll always get to that level. So you have to play like 5 levels before getting to the final level.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, Hailstorm, freaking fantastic track. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say about that one. It was easily the most intense track we've listened to so far this evening, but yeah, still definitely fitting within the same style, and with the retro chip sounds and whatnot thrown in there. But this was a little bit more obvious. They were less subtle, but they were still they fit like a glove. It was a brilliant song. All right, then let's move on to track number 4, unless you got something else.
Nope, that's it.
All right, cool. Track number 4 is Surface Tension. Tell us a little bit about this one.
So you can hear this song at the final level, Risk of Rain, Dried Lake.
Sounds like the Dried Lake could stand for some rain. That
Yeah.
joke was a complete failure.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
I didn't give you anything.
Nope, absolutely not. No, 0 points awarded. Anyway, so yeah, let's move on to track number 4 of the evening, Surface Tension. Surface Tension from Risk of Rain, and that right there, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, that gets my vote for best track of the night. That song is incredible. Absolutely incredible. It's again with the 5/4 time, completely blowing my mind. It's so expertly crafted. But I think my favorite thing about this is just the general vibe to it. Has this very 80s fantasy movie vibe to it. Like, for some reason, I just think Neverending Story. And I know there's nothing specific about the Neverending Story soundtrack that matches this song, but there's just, I don't know, the way it goes into those major chords just kind of gives it this very 80s fantasy movie vibe. And whenever I think of 80s fantasy movies, I think of the Neverending Story, which is a movie that terrified me as a kid, but in the best possible way. Yeah, it's kind of like that, but with a modern twist. It's just that wacky friggin' breakdown part in the middle. It's
Oh, that was awesome. I think that's my favorite part. Like the distortion, and then it breaks off and starts up again.
It's just gorgeous. It's a gorgeous piece of music. So well done. I will be listening to that track over and over again. Okay, let's move on to track number 5. Track number 5 is called Monsoon, so I'm expecting something a tad on the violent side. What can you tell us about this track, Vicky?
That is actually the difficulty setting for hardcore players.
Oh.
It also plays in Desolate Forest, and the Risk of Rain level.
I see. All right, well, here's track number 5, Monsoon. That was Monsoon from Risk of Rain. Vicky, how did that one make you feel?
That one felt more space-like, like deep space.
Yeah, definitely spacey. I can feel that.
And I love how the electric guitar near the end kind of catches you off guard.
Yeah, a little bit.
How did you like this one?
I liked it quite a bit. It was it was 4/4 time, so it was a little bit more straightforward. It It definitely had the a little more straightforward in a lot of respects as far as like the general drum beat and all that jazz. But at the same time, it's much like everything else on this soundtrack. It's remarkably dynamic. Like even when he's being simplistic, he's being dynamic, which is just remarkable. Another very well composed piece.
Was it less like epic than you thought it would be? Did you think like
I was expecting something a bit more violent based on the name Monsoon. I was expecting something a little bit more like what the next track sounds like. If I'm remembering the next track correctly. But yeah, I don't know. I think of Monsoon, I think just absolute violence. And you're right. This was very spacey. This was like a... See, for some reason I want to say a serious Super Mario Galaxy, but I know that's not right. I've been playing Mario Galaxy 2 a lot lately, so it's kind of...
Oh, that's fun.
Oh, such a good game. It's such a good game. But yeah, Risk of Rain. This is not Super Mario Galaxy. Very different animal. And yeah, spacey. Very, very good call there. I wasn't even thinking of that, but yeah, you said that word space, and I'm like, yeah, this is outer space. This is definitely what this is. Very epic outer space stuff. Not quite as violent as I thought. Okay, you ready for the last track of the night?
I sure am.
Okay, here we are at the end of our time here. Tropic of Cancer. What do you got for us, Vicky?
This is played during Hive Cluster, Magma Barracks, and the Temple of the Elders. The Tropic of Cancer is the most northerly, yes, that's a word, circle of latitude on the Earth at which the sun may appear directly overhead in its culmination. Yep.
Science. Well, armed with that knowledge, brace yourself for the awesomeness that is Tropic of Cancer. Enjoy. Well, now that's what I call intense.
I think this song truly encapsulates the theme of the game. It's very violent, and at times it can be very calm.
Yeah,
and then it ends
very dynamic
really,
like that, yeah.
And at the end, it ends very strong.
It certainly does. Now, is this like stage music? Does this loop?
Yes.
I gotcha. Cool. So, funny story. When I listened to this music for the first time the other day, this was actually the first track I listened to, and it
oh no,
it surprised me quite a bit because I don't know. I hear a game called Risk of Rain, and I'm thinking, all right, rain. It's probably going to be some delightful niceness, and then it just jumps right into the metal. It's like, whoa, okay, that was unexpected. Not unawesome because it is awesome, but yeah, didn't see that coming. Yeah, this is a badass track. This is, I mean, obviously it's the most overtly aggressive track that we've listened to all night, but it's it handles itself quite well, while again, stylistically sticking with the modern instruments with some 8-bit type sounding stuff in the background, just kind of give it that computery edge. And if you've not played this game like me, look up the visuals that kind of match this. It's really quite a remarkable look, and when you're playing a game that looks so decidedly old school with very modern sounding music like this, it's a very, very cool experience.
It really mashes together well.
It does. It's very expertly crafted, because this is something that's very easy to screw up. Like, I feel like a lot of the stuff that Kris was working on in this soundtrack could have gone so incredibly poorly in the hands of a less talented composer, but he pulls this whole thing off very, very nicely. It's very impressive. Any final thoughts before we close it out?
This was a very exciting episode to do. I wish I had more to say, but I did get to talk to Kris a lot, and that was very exciting.
That is very exciting. Yeah. All right. Well, that's our show. Tune in next time. We'll be listening to the summary sounds of Star Tropics for the NES. This one comes via coincidental listener request, and it having already been on my schedule, completely unbeknownst to said listener who requested it. And it will feature some very special remastered tracks you may have not heard before. As always, we would love to hear everyone's thoughts and memories on these games, so if you have any other ideas that you would like us to listen to on WaveBack, please send them to mail@geekade.com. While you're at it, check out all our social media channels, which you should totally like/subscribe to if you haven't already. And be sure to check out our other great content we have on the site over at geekade.com. Thank you for listening. Now please stick around to listen to Vicky's interview with the game's composer. What was his name again?
Christodoulou.
Yes, I wasn't going to try to butcher his last name again. Thank you very much for listening. Enjoy the interview, and we'll see you next time. Good night.
Well, let's get started. When did you first get into music?
I started from a pretty young age. I think I was about 5 when my parents took me to a local conservatory in my hometown, and well, pretty much since then, I mean, I started just playing keyboard and very basic theory lessons, and after that, yeah, I just kept on going until today.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't initially think that I would become a musician, from a very young age. I think I sort of thought about it maybe when I was 16 or something, which is maybe a bit late. I don't know. Professionally being a musician. I was.
Yeah. What did you want to be?
I hadn't really thought about it too much. I think at that point I was. I hadn't made any decisions. I was just leaning towards positive sciences and stuff. I liked physics a lot. But yeah, at some point, yeah, I just realized that I really like doing music, and especially. I mean, at some point, I was thinking that I would be a performer, but as I learned more about music, then I started, gravitating towards composing a little bit more. So after a point, I focused more on theoretical stuff and less on playing. And probably because I was a bit, I realized that I didn't have like the focus that it required to study an instrument and become like a professional player of that instrument. I mean, I can play some stuff, but I'm not by any means like a professional piano player or whatever.
Oh, what other instruments do you play?
I mainly play the piano, and at some point when I was around 14, I think, I taught myself the drums.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was nice, yeah, because I guess it was more, it was something that was more in demand when we were young, because in bands, everybody starts off playing the piano, so there were a lot of piano players and less drummers, and so I kind of picked it up and I really liked it. I could understand it. I mean, rhythm is something that just was a bit natural to me, I think. And afterwards, I taught myself like the very, very basic stuff around the guitar and the electric bass, and I can mostly handle myself with the bass and just a little bit of guitar, like play a few songs and stuff. But again, I mean, piano is the instrument that I know best of all, and I would still not, describe myself as a pianist. Yeah, I'm kind of hesitant and a bit careful with that stuff, because I sometimes see people that are very easy to say, well, I play a lot of instruments and blah blah blah, and I mean, if you meet like real people that are professional performers, and the kind of discipline that it requires and the technical skills that they have, to me is a bit disrespectful if I come out and say, well, I'm a pianist. Well,
okay.
Yeah,
I used to play the viola for a very long time, actually.
The viola, wow.
Yes.
Okay. How come?
I don't know.
I mean, why not a violin or the cello? The viola is very...
Yeah, I know, it's kind of like nobody really thinks about the viola. They think, oh, violin, or like upright bass, or I think it was because nobody really played it, and I was really interested in it because to me it felt like the backbone of the violin. Like, kind of without that, you couldn't have like the magnificent sound of like the violin.
Wow, interesting. And you were playing in an orchestra or just?
Yeah, I played in an orchestra for a little while.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
Yeah, there were only like 3 of us and like 15 violin players.
Oh, of course, yeah.
It was pretty funny.
Did you ever like try the violin, or did it feel different playing on a violin, or
Yeah, I actually started out with the violin.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really like it much. I don't remember why. I think it was too whiny to me.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the songs we were learning to play were like so high pitched, and I didn't like that. I have really sensitive ears, so I like the lower stuff. Like the cello is actually my favorite instrument.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed that you had the episode about Journey, Journey, and you were kind of talking about the cello. So yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful instrument, definitely. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I like the lower.
It's actually it's Tina Guo, the performer, that did the. Because you guys were talking about it on the.
Yeah, we forgot to add it in afterwards because I looked it up and I'm like, oh my god, what was her name? And then I told him, and I guess we forgot to re-record it.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
So, who are your musical influences?
When I was like young, my first like conscious musical stuff that I was listening to bands, and I realized that this is a band I like and I follow, were probably Pink Floyd, one of the first ones, and then the Beatles, Queen. The Beatles, I mean, it's the band. I mean, it's not very like a original answer. Of course, everybody loves the Beatles, but the thing about the Beatles is that, I mean, I grew up listening to Pink Floyd and I listened to them a lot, and this is going to sound like crazy for some people, but I don't listen to Pink Floyd anymore. I don't. It's not very intriguing anymore to me, I think. I mean, I still like some stuff, but they don't stand that much the test of time to my ears. I want something more. I always keep looking for new stuff, and I don't go back to Pink Floyd too much, you know, like I might listen to them in a nostalgic way or have a few songs that stand out. But with the Beatles, this doesn't happen. With the Beatles, I can listen to every song and I still feel that is, you know, brand new and original and great and has amazing melodies and amazing harmonies. And especially, you know, after the first couple of albums when they started really going crazy, that's really never boring to me. And yeah, I mean, Queen, I listen to a lot. Michael Jackson. From more modern stuff, Daft Punk is one of my most major influences, especially the Discovery album. I mean, it's definitely, yeah. I mean, to me, it's like one of the greatest influences in my music, not because it's closer or more similar to the music I write, but because it was such a revelation to me that you could do something like that. So it was something that came from outside my own musical world, which was more like the rock stuff. And then I just listened to this album and I was like, wow, this is really something extraordinary that you can do both, I mean, with sampling and stuff, but also the way that they combined all the things and that they made something. I mean, you have like a house album that has like keyboard solos and with distortions and stuff. And that was really crazy, I think, at least to me. And obviously from my studies, I really love like Bach, classical composers, Prokofiev, Stravinsky, Debussy from like the later ones. That all that stuff is really, I mean, even if I'm writing something that is purely like a rock thing, like maybe Risk of Rain or something like that, yeah. I always have in the background, there's always a little bit of, you know, those classical influences, maybe in the way I compose or in the or just in the back of my head, you know, you don't really get it out of you.
We have a similar favorite band.
Okay. I mean, you mean for Daft Punk? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you like the latest album?
It took me a while to like listen to, like I was listening to it and I'm like, this isn't like what they usually do. Mm-hmm. And I had to keep listening to it to actually like it. Yeah. So to me, that wasn't like a good album. Usually with music, I love it right away or I don't feel anything. Yeah. What did you think about it?
I mean, I see it. It has a lot of references to like music of the past, so like the 70s and stuff like that, which I mean, I like it, but at some point it feels like it's some of the pieces are just tributes to stuff and not like original. Yeah. Which I think in some of the pieces they didn't really surpass the tendency to pay tribute to some of their you know, favorite stuff. But I mean, overall, there are some stuff that I really like. I mean, I love how it sounds. I mean, the production is out of this world. It's absolutely amazing. I have listened to it like in any kind of like device that you listen to it, from high-end speakers to just like your iPad or whatever. It still manages to sound good. I think they've done like a great job in the production. So that's something I really like. And there are some of the songs that I think they're really good songs. I mean, overall, it might not be a great record. I mean, of course, it can't top Discovery, not by any means, but nothing can, I guess. But I mean, it's okay. I'm sort of optimistic in general. I hope that their next thing will be a bit less focused on this kind of need for them to come back in this sort of marketing sense of, you know, that we've been away for a while and now we need to produce something that it's like everybody will like, and that's you know, and maybe they will come up with some. I mean, in a weird way, I like the previous album, which was really like avant-garde, which is really hard to listen to. It's really hard to like put it on and listen to the whole thing, but still, it was called Human After All, right? And
oh yes.
now, I mean, I'm not talking about the Tron soundtrack. That's
No.
just something like a side project, I think. But I know that it's not like easy listening music that somebody will put on and listen to, but I appreciate it because it's so bold, you know. I mean, they're really just putting stuff out there that they are 100% sure that it's not going to be commercial, but they still did it. So that's admirable to me.
All right, next question. Were you able to play the game Risk of Rain before you created the music for it?
Yes, I had the beta version of the game, and I played around. I mean, I was able to play it, but then I was not able to play it in the sense that I'm a very bad player of the game. So I tried a little bit. I didn't like play through the entire game and then start writing music. I just got like a sense of the gameplay and the feeling of it, and then for all the levels and stuff, I asked from the guys to send me screenshots because I didn't want to spend time just trying to get to like the next level or something. It was not something that was really important for me to I could get the sense of the game from a screenshot if I knew how the gameplay was, like from the first couple of levels that I had played.
Wow.
I mean, when I got on board, the game was not completed by any means, but there was a lot of playable things. You can really play and get a good feeling out of it, and also see the difficulty and stuff.
So the developers weren't like very involved with the process. They were just like sending you screenshots, or would they like ask you about what they wanted the music to be like?
Well, I think because it was their very first project and my like maybe third project, but it was the first time that I wasn't working with somebody that I didn't previously know. So it was a little bit, let's say, awkward at points, but we did have. I mean, we had a good relationship in the sense that they were happy with the music that I was sending them, and they didn't really interfere with like asking me to change stuff. I mean, one of the first pieces that I sent, I remember at some point I got a note that, well, maybe this one is a bit too much and we might not use it. But eventually, after a while, they sent back like, okay, we had this in our, we had a Dropbox, so we can send like a shared folder so we can send back and forth stuff. And it was just in there. And after a point, they sent to me, that, well, we listened to the piece and now we're kind of like it. We're used to it. We see it in the game. So let's still use it. And then it was indeed like expanded and made into a full piece, and we ended up using it. So our collaboration was like easy in that sense that we didn't have I didn't have like notes from them or stuff like that I need to change. And I think that they also were respectful in the sense that they were a couple of guys that are not musicians, so they didn't want to like interfere with music making. They kind of trusted me with that. Maybe it's some of it is because they are not musicians, as I said, and some of it might be because it was one of their first projects and they didn't really know how hands-on they should be with the music. But I think it worked for the best because I mean, in the end, we were both happy with the result, and I think it kind of fit the game. So I guess
the album was very well received by a lot of people.
Oh yeah, I was really happy with how people like. I got a lot of positive feedback, which is really amazing. I wasn't really expecting it. I mean, we weren't even expecting for the game to become something that people knew about, and it was kind of like overwhelming to see it become successful. But specifically for the music and myself, it was really like mind blowing to have people actually, you know, listen to it and ask me about it and kind of embrace it that much.
What was your favorite song that you made for Risk of Rain?
From Risk of Rain, it's Dew Point, and actually it's really hard to like pick a favorite song, although I just blurted out like that. But I have thought about it a lot. I mean, it's something that I have in different moods. I will have like different stuff that I will say, okay, now I want to listen to this. But from a purely like, let's say, academical point of view or analytical point of view, I really do think that Dew Point is one of the best things I've written. I'm really proud of it because of the structure and like the chord progressions and everything, and how it's. I'm just really proud of that one. I would even dare say it's one of my favorites from everything that I've written, not just Risk of Rain.
Awesome. What's your composing process like?
Well, it's not really methodical in the sense that I have, you know, a very standard way to compose. Usually it involves a lot of sitting around and doing other stuff and just thinking about the music. But beyond all that, when I'm actually like sitting to do the work, it's kind of a combination of things. I sometimes, and depending on the project, of course, I mean, sometimes I will just sit on the piano or with a piano patch and just open on my sequencer and, you know, try out chords and melodies and things like that. Or at some cases I might just start with some sound designing, just, you know, open up a synth and try to figure out sounds, or maybe just browse through patches of things. Or sometimes I will just have like a rhythm, like a drum sequence, drum loop that I'm developing, and I'm kind of, you know, building the track on that. So it's really non-standard, I would say. I mean, what is standard to me is what comes before the actual like sitting in the chair and start writing, which is basically just taking some time off playing any music and just thinking about it. And when I say some time, I don't mean that I will wake up in the morning and just, you know, think about it. I mean that when I have a project to do, like the first couple of weeks, I won't write too much music. I will just, you know, play the game a little bit, have the screenshots in my head, and you know, do other stuff. Just let it, you know, kind of become a part of me in a more like abstract sense that is just a part of what I'm thinking in my daily routine. And then after that, when I sit to write, I find that it's a bit more easy to come up with stuff, because, you know, the atmosphere and the feeling that I need to convey, I think it's more embedded in my mind. So it's, you know, stuff come out a bit easier.
It's pretty cool. I've never heard like composers really talk about what their writing process is. Usually like big people like Hans Zimmer are like, oh, well, it just came to me in like a dream one day.
Well, it's funny because I have actually had this experience a few times, but not in the sense that a piece will come to me in a dream, but there are like at least 3 occasions in my life where I had written something, and either in my sleep or in like very late hours in the night where I'm just sitting in bed and thinking of other stuff, a sort of idea comes to me, which is like, okay, oh man, I really need to do this very specific thing in this piece, which is usually something that, you know, it's not that the piece wasn't there, the piece was there, but it's something that it might be like a specific transposition that I wanted to do. It might be at some point I woke up and said, okay, this piece needs a choir. And then I, you know, just did it right then and there. I woke up and just, you know, started the computer and made a little draft of the choir so that I don't wake up and have forgotten about it or something like that. Mm-hmm. But And it comes back to what I said about taking some time to really familiarize yourself, not with the material that you're writing, which is also very important, but with the media that you're writing for, because then even in your sleep you're gonna breathe that material, and it's going to be part of your daily mindset, let's say. So you never know when something will trigger like a creative idea or something in the music. So it's not, so to me it's not just a matter of, I mean, I can always sit and start writing and something will come up, but the really like special moments will be a product of all this kind of letting the thing like seep into you.
That's pretty cool.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it makes sense. I hate it for it to appear like metaphysical, because I'm not that kind of guy. I don't believe in any sort of revelations or whatever. And I'm not like big on inspiration and stuff, because as I said, if I sit just like any other professional, if I sit in the piano, I can write music. I don't need to be inspired by anything. It's just something that you learn how to do eventually, I think. So I don't mean to make it sound that the writing process is something like really supernatural or whatever, but familiarizing yourself and living with what you're writing for and the tools that you're using, and that's really important, because you never know when this spark will come up.
Wow. That's pretty cool. This is going back to Risk of Rain.
Sure.
Which is, who came up with the names of the songs?
Oh, again, with the names, I mean, I came up with the names, and it's basically because of this a little bit remote relationship that we had with Hopu. I didn't really had like a very specific ideas of like the levels. I didn't know how they were going to be called. I didn't know how the enemies are called. Oh, and I think that maybe for a good while, maybe even the guys didn't know about it and ended up putting it in afterwards. But the names was something that after I wrote like a couple of tracks, it was something that I made a very conscious decision that I'm going to have all the titles be about something that has to do with water or weather conditions and stuff like that. So basically naming the songs was just like a crazy trip of Wikipedia articles and following different links and just whatever struck me in a certain way. I was like, okay, this is something that I can use, and I learned a few new words in that process.
Yeah, I did too. Picking them all up, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna read this French poem.
Oh yeah, and that too.
That one. Do you have a favorite video game?
I do have a favorite video game, and it's Grim Fandango by LucasArts. It's like,
I've never heard of that. You
have never heard of Grim Fandango?
I have.
It's like it's like an adventure game that came out at the end of the great adventure game era, which was like the late 90s. I mean, it was already in the decline. Basically, it was the end of the era.
Oh.
And it was LucasArts, I think, penultimate adventure at that point. After that, they released Monkey Island 4. Which was not received very well, but it was their first 3D game, adventure game, and it's about a travel agent that lives in the world of the dead, and it involves this kind of Mexican folklore, and it's modeled a little bit after Casablanca, and it's very noir and has this sort of Art Deco art style to it, and brilliant music, and it's just it's my favorite game, like by far. It's not even, I don't even, it's my favorite everything basically. Yeah,
I'm definitely gonna look into it.
Oh yeah, actually they released a remastered version like a few months ago or something, which is easily playable on a modern computer now, so, or even consoles, I think. Okay. It's definitely worth looking into it.
Sweet, thanks. Do you have a favorite video game soundtrack?
I mean, again, it's very rare that like a masterpiece is lacking in one of its parts. So, you know, a great movie usually has great actors, has great script, has a great director, and has great music. And again, with games, like Grim Fandango is not my favorite just because it has a cool story or just because it's a great adventure game, but it's my favorite because it combines a lot of stuff together. And one of the things that it has is amazing music, which is written by Peter McConnell, who is still writing a lot of the music for Tim Schafer, who's, you know, like he did Broken Age and all that stuff, and now he's going to do Psychonauts. And I think he also wrote the music for Hearthstone, if I'm not mistaken, which is also also pretty. I mean, he's a well-known composer in the gaming world, and definitely the soundtrack of Grim Fandango is up there for me, like because it has this really amazing like jazz noir music, and sometimes it incorporates like the musical folklore and even like a bit ambient music that is, well, not reminiscent, but it points the finger to like Aztec and Mayan mythology and all that stuff. So it's really great. Yeah, it's totally a recommend for me for anyone listening to go check it out. I mean, they will really love it. It's not what you would call game music, if such a thing exists. I mean, stylistically, if there's any unified, you know, notion of game music, maybe that stands a little bit outside that.
Okay, like usually when we mention like game music, it's usually something that was created with the NES or like the sound system, like old stuff.
Yeah, like the chiptune stuff. No, that's from the, like the CD was already introduced at that point, so they actually had, you know, real recordings. Yeah. They are a little bit compressed because of saving space and all that, but beyond that, it's actually real instruments that play, except some very few pieces that they needed like an orchestra. They couldn't afford an orchestra back then, and the synthetic orchestras were not at a very good level. But these are like a couple of pieces from the entire soundtrack, which is like more than an hour long, maybe even 2 hours, I don't know, which is basically just a jazz band playing. And they actually did a remaster of the soundtrack too for the new version. So at some points they went and cleaned up the original recordings, and they also did some additional tracking of some instruments at some points, and they did replace all the orchestral pieces with an actual orchestra playing. So, you know, if somebody wants to listen that into all its glory, now they can. It's even on Spotify, I think.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I'll definitely give that a listen. Would you ever want to work on pieces for films? And
I mean, I would love to, and I have done like a few short films back in the day, especially when I was studying, because I did a film music masters a few years ago, and during that time I worked on a few short films, and it's really nice. It's something I like to do, but game music is always what I really wanted to do. So I'm not really, as long as I get game gigs, I'm not chasing after films. Okay. That said, I mean, I think it was about a year ago that I did like a short animation that some Swedish director was doing, and he actually heard Risk of Rain, and that's why he asked me to do it. And that was really fun because I hadn't done like a film is a very different media from, you know, game to compose for. Yeah. So it's something that I really like. And occasionally I have for games I have done, you know, music for trailers, which is also something that is fixed in time. So it's much closer to, you know, scoring a film. But I would really love to do like a kind of a, you know, long feature film at some point. I mean, I wouldn't say no to it for sure. I would love to. Yeah.
Are there any soundtracks you're currently working on?
There's a soundtrack that I've worked and it's recently finished, and it's now like kind of waiting to be released. And hopefully the game will be out this year, so I will have the opportunity to release that. And I'm not currently working on anything, just because all the projects that I have for the future are in really like pre-production. It is somehow I've been working sort of non-stop for a few years, and suddenly after the release of Deadbolt, all my future projects were in very early production stages. So I'm kind of a bit more relaxed now and have the opportunity to like upgrade my studio a little bit and just take some time off and relax. There are a few projects on the way, but I would say I mean, besides the thing that I told you about that is, just waiting to come out. But this is something that I've done previously, so I'm not working on it anymore. Other than that, I would say that no immediate releases in the like near future or something. But you never know. I mean, I don't know if somebody wants to ask me to do something. I think I have a little bit of free time now.
And the last question, do you have a weird talent?
Actually, in fact, I do. I can hold my breath for 10 minutes. No, it's not actually. I'm just kidding with you. But if there are people out there that are Monkey Island fans, they might get that joke. So it's like a weird little reference. I don't really have any weird talents. I don't know. I'm pretty regular guy, I think, most of the time. I wouldn't say. No, I can't think of anything at least.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that's the end of the show.
All right, cool.
Thank you so much for joining me.
No problem. Thank you for having me.